Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio by Ray Ora.
Hey, good morning.
Got Jonathan Voico here.
Hello, everyone.
And most importantly, you guys are here. Thanks a lot for being here, making the show part of your day. Here's how the show goes. We're going to start off by talking about a whole bunch of predetermined topics. Then in the second half of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you've got a thought, theory, opinion, question, observation, or whatever, you can go ahead and use our tip link to send in a question at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. And here's the nice thing about it. You can send in a question while we're doing the show live, but if you're one of the many people who watch the show when we're not live, because you can't be here while we're streaming live, you can still send in a question whenever you want, 24 hours a day at the tip link, and we'll get around to it. As long as it's appropriate for us to use on the show, we'll get around to it on the next episode. All right, well, tonight's the night, guys. I think tonight, The Acolyte,
Yeah.
I think it's the make or break episode for me.
All right.
You know, I watched the first two episodes. There were positives and there were negatives. Like, there were certain things that show it has potential.
Mm-hmm.
I love Lee Jung-jae as Soul. I think he stole the show. The combat in it looks fantastic. They got a nice little mystery going. However, they also bring along with it a lot of the red flags that we've seen in a lot of the other Disney Plus shows that worry me. So I think for tonight, how much of an impact the episode makes on me tonight is going to be my make or break. So it's either going to be the one that says, yep, I'm going to watch this one all the way through, or at least help me decide whether or not I'm going to continue to do an after show for it.
Yeah.
It's
And
like
then maybe just kind of then it becomes bingeable instead of like every week.
Maybe. Yeah, that's the thing. Disney has really struggled outside of things like WandaVision, Ms. Marvel, Andor. They've struggled to make stuff must-see TV.
Yeah.
And tonight, I think we'll do a lot to dissuade me from watching anymore, or anchor me in for hanging in there for the long haul. Hey, listen, we got a bunch of things to talk about, but before we do, I just want to mention a couple things here. A couple quick things. Congratulations to one of the all-time GOATs. Mel Brooks
Okay.
has become just the fourth person in history to win the PGOT. You can bring this up here. He won a Peabody Award, which means he has now won an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony, and now a Peabody Award. The PGOT, only four people in history. Barbra Streisand was one of them, and I can't remember the other two who did, but
What's the Peabody? Is that
it's like a television excellence sort of award thing.
All right. I thought maybe it was literature.
No, there's the Pulitzer as well.
Well,
there are two
yeah.
people. There are two people who have the PGOT for the Pulitzer and four that have it for the Peabody.
Ooh, wow.
So congratulations to Mel Brooks.
If you had all of it, you'd have the PP got.
The PPGOT. Nobody has ever won
A PP got.
the PPGOT. Evil will always triumph because good is dumb. Well done. And where the white women at? Well done, Mel Brooks, for that. But one other thing I wanted to mention here, and this is totally off brand for what we normally talk about.
Uh-huh.
The world's greatest eating champion, Joey Chestnut, who holds the world record for hot dog eating. I think he's won every single Nathan's Day Nathan's hot dog eating contest since 2016. He's not going to be in it this year. Not going to be in it because he dared sign a sponsorship with a vegan Miracle Meat kind of company for hot dogs. And Nathan said, nope, you can't be represented by anybody and still compete in this competition. I call bull on this. Bull crap, I say. Hey, Nathans, this is either supposed to be the world's greatest eaters competing in this, or it's not.
Yeah.
If you're going to keep out like undisputed all-time eating champion GOAT, who I don't know how he is not fat, because sure, I eat like that, and they asked me to leave the restaurant. But you got the world's, by far, by miles, the world's greatest eater. And you're saying, no, you can't compete because you signed a sponsorship with a vegan. So what?
Yeah. Who cares?
On the day, he'll be wearing a Nathan's hot dog eating competition shirt. What's the problem here? So I say boo to Nathan's. And as a sign of protest, I am boycotting Nathan's hot dogs. Now, it should sort of be mentioned that my boycott means very little because I don't know that I've ever actually eaten a Nathan's hot dog, to be honest with you. So there's that.
It sounds like
but I'm boycotting them.
Yeah, it sounds like someone on the board has a relative that's competing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, I'm joking, but I'm like, yeah, just come up with some reason.
Oh, I thought you meant the chat board.
Yeah.
So boo, I say to Nathan's.
Stay strong, John. You could do it.
We will make change together. Anyway, guys, with that all down, let's get into some stuff here, shall we? And this first one certainly classifies as stuff. Some of you will know that Zack Snyder, a director who up until the Rebel Moon films, I like to remind everybody, I love his entire filmography, save
Sucker Punch.
Sucker Punch.
Uh-huh.
That's it. That's the only movie he has ever made that I didn't really enjoy. Some of them I really enjoyed. Some of them I loved. But I'm a big fan of it. I even liked that zombie movie he did recently with Dave Bautista, Army of the Dead. I know not everybody liked it. I did. I enjoyed it. But then came Rebel Moon, which, to put it delicately and with all due respect, suck ass. They're so bad. They are so unwatchably awful. They're terrible. And I know that Zack Snyder is capable of much, much better. So I will continue to look forward to future Zack Snyder projects. Absolutely. But hey, Steven Spielberg had his, what's it called again? The Terminal.
Yeah.
Steven Spielberg had his Terminal. Zack Snyder has his Rebel Moon. Everybody has their bad day at the office. Is what it is, as Ray guffaws at me. So, but they've all, right from the inception of this thing, they set up the most ass-stupid marketing gimmick that most people see right through, but it breaks my heart to see some people are just buying into this gimmick, saying right away, there's going to be a Snyder cut of the Rebel Moon.
Can't wait.
Oh, boy.
I get to watch it twice.
Woo! As Ric Flair would say.
Yeah.
And they're calling it, check this out, Rebel Moon's director's cut, they're calling it sexier and bloodier. The good folks of Variety write this. After releasing his two-part Rebel Moon sci-fi epic on Netflix, Zack Snyder's director's cut, I still can't help but giggle when I read that, is nearly here, and it will have they're even renaming them.
Oh, boy.
2 new titles. The quote-unquote sexier, bloodier versions. Listen, if the only way you can try to get people to watch your thing is by calling it sexier and bloodier, anyway. Versions of his Netflix saga will drop on August 2nd with 2 newly titled chapters instead of 2 parts. Originally released as Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, and Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scar Giver, the director's cuts will be called Rebel Moon Chapter 1, not Part 1. Big difference. Big difference. Chapter 1, Chalice of Blood, and Chapter 2, Curse of Forgiveness. Which, to give credits where credit's due, I think those titles are better than the original titles.
They do sound bloodier.
They do sound bloodier,
so
and dare I say, sexier.
Yeah.
Much sexier. Okay, so here's why this is pathetic. It's not just laughable, this is pathetic. Normally, when the term like director's cut is being attached to something, it implies that for whatever reason, the director wasn't really permitted to deliver their true vision of a film, right? For one reason or the other. Maybe, a studio said, hey, your cut is too long. That won't work for the movie theaters. It'll limit, or maybe they just didn't think, your cut is too sexy and too bloody.
Yeah.
We can't do that.
Or it could be that there's going to be a director's cut, so we can't let you cut this one.
So here's the thing. That's the implication, right? It implies when there's a director's cut that there was something barring the director from like really giving their true vision of the movie. This thing is on Netflix. This is the streamer that put out the 17-hour Martin Scorsese epic, The Irishman.
Yeah.
Obviously, it wasn't 17 hours. I'm being facetious.
but-
But put out The Irishman. They put out stuff that is borderline porn. Which, by the way, no complaints from me. You go, Netflix. But, I mean, Netflix puts out stuff that is borderline porn. There was nothing impeding Zack Snyder from actually delivering whatever it is he wanted to deliver. This is on Netflix. The fact that it was planned in advance, this was nothing more than a desperate, pathetic attempt to try to hijack and jump on the truck of the whole release the Snyder Cut thing that ruined fandom for like years over the Justice League thing. Well, that got a lot of people talking. Let's do the Snyder Cut of Rebel Moon too.
Yeah, it's his thing now.
It's pathetic and it's bullshit. And it is beneath, I think, a filmmaker with the talents of Zack Snyder. Listen, I know Zack Snyder isn't everybody's cup of tea. I get that. And film is subjective, but I'm just, his particular style of storytelling quite often works for me. I don't think he's a Spielberg or anything like that, but his stuff more often than not works for me. And I think this is beneath him. I think it's beneath Netflix. I think this reeks of desperation and patheticness. It's just dumb. And listen, if you actually believe that this is going to make these movies better, good on you. And here's the problem. If these are better than the original sloths of garbage that we had delivered to us in Rebel Moons Part 1 and 2, then the question has to be raised, then why the fuck did you waste our time making us watch those other ones first? Like, if these versions are indeed better, why didn't you just fucking give us these in the first place? Why did you make us dredge through that god-awful slop that you gave us originally? This is a no positive scenario to me, and I think it's just absolutely awful that they're doing this. And they're treating their audience like they're morons. They're treating their audience like they're too stupid to understand the difference. And I got news for you. They're not. So anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Are you excited for August 2nd to revisit the sexier and bloodier world of Rebel Moon? Whatever, maybe you are. Okay, and listen, maybe you liked the two Rebel Moon movies. If you did, that's great. I celebrate that. I'm not trying to talk you out of liking it. If you liked it, and I think that's wonderful. I did not. So there's that. Anyway, whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, that down. Let's move on to this, shall we? Matt Reeves's The Batman came out, won over the audience, won over the critics, big hit at the box office, making well north of, 700 million? I don't think it quite got to 800 million.
It was 7 something.
But it made north of $700 million in a Batman film that had a big uphill struggle. And there were a lot of really good things in it.
772.
$772 million again, they had a big uphill battle trying to make that movie and make it good. And people loved it and a lot of good things. But then HBO and Max went, yeah, Matt Reeves' Batman is good, but we think it could be sexier and bloodier. So they said, let's do a Penguin series.
The Penguin cut.
Colin Farrell's Penguin.
Yep.
In that Matt Reeves Batman, it was one of the showstoppers. There are several things that were show-stopping in that movie. His portrayal as Penguin is absolutely one of the show-stopping elements of that thing. He was absolutely fabulous. And it's not just because we constantly had to look at him and go, are you sure that's Colin Farrell? The performance was phenomenal. And they've been teasing us with this series. Of course, it went into production, got delayed because of the strikes, all that kind of stuff, went back into production, got told it's going to come out this year. But now we actually have at least a month. We know the actual month that the series is now going to come out. This comes from the folks at Screen Rant, who wrote the following. Speaking to Variety, Casey Bloys, chairman and CEO of HBO and Max, revealed that the Batman spin-off series, The Penguin, will be released in September. That's like 3 months from now, guys. The Batman was originally released in March, with the movie sequel, The Batman Part 2, having recently been delayed and will now be released on October 2nd, 2026. That's way too far away. Farrell's Penguin will be joined by an impressive cast that includes Kristen Milioti as Sophia Falcone, the daughter of the Batman's Carmine Falcone. You guys remember, it had to be what? Close to like maybe over 6 months ago that they dropped that first kind of, it wasn't really a trailer. It was a hybrid of a trailer with a behind the scenes sizzle.
Yeah.
Where they showed we're going to go into the world of the Penguin and explore the underbelly of Gotham City and all that kind of stuff. Now, I've already heard a number of people say, you can't do a Batman thing without Batman. It's not going to work. I would counter that by saying they said the same thing about the first Venom movie. You can't do a Venom movie without Spider-Man. And that movie was a ball and ended up making more than the Batman did. It made over $800 million at the box office. It's a huge success. Even its sequel, which was a step down in quality, made a whole ton of money. Anyway, the world of Gotham is such a rich, living, breathing organism that we've seen done so well, especially in the Christopher Nolan films and stuff like that. And certainly Matt Reeves set up beautifully in the Batman. Gotham, and we hear it said a lot, but it was really true of that movie. Gotham was a living, breathing character in that film. And to see one of its main figures, Penguin, portrayed by Colin Farrell, who I think is marvelous. By the way, his new series that's out right now, Sugar, I really enjoyed it. I don't think it's like it's not on Shogun House of the Dragon level, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was quite good. But I think he's a remarkable actor, fabulous actor. And now we know it's only 3 months away. God, I'm excited. We got a lot of good stuff coming on the big screen and the small screen in the second half of this year. And now we got another one coming out in September. Question is for you guys. What do you think about this? We now have a month, September, 3 months from now. The new Colin Farrell Penguin series. Are you looking forward to it? Maybe you didn't like the Matt Reeves Batman. That's cool if you didn't. But are you excited for this nonetheless? Yes, no, whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, in the world of the Transformers, we had the original classic series. We had the 86 movie. We had the Michael Bayism stuff. But you know what? The people at Hasbro said, we can be sexier and bloodier.
Hell yeah.
And so we've got Transformers 1 coming. Now, they dropped the trailer online to, I got to admit, some confusion over the fact that it was pretty divided. There are a lot of people who didn't like the trailer. I'm a little confused by that because I actually thought it was quite good. But I have to admit, I had the advantage of seeing more footage of it because they showed us a big presentation of Transformers 1 at CinemaCon. And I got to tell you, even though I had my doubts, and I still have a sore spot on my ass from that 1986 movie that I'm still have not forgiven Hasbro for, I got to admit, I thought it looked pretty damn good. And now, just because it looked good in a preview doesn't mean it's going to be good. Well, they believe in this movie so much, they decided to take it to the toughest audience you can put it in front of. The French.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Sacre bleu. They're going to they went to the Annecy Film Festival, Animation Film Festival. It's a prestigious film festival.
Yeah.
They're taking it there, and they decided to debut it. And the film was met with, according to the Hollywood Reporter in the headline, laughs and cheers and a standing ovation at the end of it. This comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter, who wrote the following. Transformers 1 helped get things rolling Monday as the Annecy Animation Festival goes full tilt. Director Josh Cooley and Paramount Animation President Ramsey Nadio addressed the crowd before showing a not quite finished version of the film in Annecy, France. The animated project star-studded voice cast who were not at the screening includes Chris Hemsworth, Brian Tyree Henry, Scarlett Johansson, Keegan-Michael Key, Steve Buscemi, Lawrence Fishburne, and John Hamm. I'm very excited, Cooley told the audience while introducing the movie that hits theaters on September 20th. So much talent and nostalgic love has gone into this movie. Cooley went on to thank the film's team of the greatest animators and CG artists in the world, and gave a shout out to Industrial Light and Magic for their work on the feature. He added to the crowd, "I want to thank you all for being audience one." It then goes on to talk about how it got a standing ovation, big cheers throughout, big laughs at Keegan-Michael Key, and all this kind of stuff. All right. What does this leave us with? Now, you guys remember that at CinemaCon a few years ago, they showed us the first 30 minutes of Lightyear. And we loved it. I mean, we came out of that first 30 minutes saying, oh my God, guys. I even said, coming out of that first 30 minutes, guys, Lightyear is going to become the 5th animated film in history to be nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. That's how good the first 30 minutes were. And then I went to go see the full film.
You're like the monkey and that monkey meme and Planet of the Apes. Oh no!
Oh no! Yeah, it's like, woo! Started out strong and went right downhill, and Lightyear ended up being a pretty disappointing movie. So, I'm totally prepared that when I see something at CinemaCon that looks really great, like a presentation for Transformers 1, that okay, the presentation was great. Maybe the movie won't be so great. Well, they decide to take this movie and put it in front of the world's forefront animation people at a prestigious animation film festival in France. That's how much confidence they had in this movie.
And they didn't fart in their general direction.
And they did not fart in this general. And they didn't have to make it sexier or bloodier.
Yeah, it was already there.
It was already there. So look, they had the guts to take it there, which tells me, number one, they had a lot of confidence in it because, listen, they know that this Transformers 1 movie, it's divided. People are divided about whether or not they believe in it or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for you to take it to a festival like that, if you get people walking out, which French audiences are known to do, or if you get people complaining about it, you've sunk your movie before it ever comes out. Like if the word coming out of Annecy was like crap, they're done before they even get started. So they had the guts. They believed in it. They took it there, and they say they got a lot of cheers, a lot of standing ovations. And I mean, listen, it just makes me excited for it because I really liked what I saw. Now, I can't personally attest that the whole movie's great. I haven't seen it. But I got to tell you guys, I believe in what I'm seeing here.
I mean, last year, Mutant Mayhem, the Turtles movie, was shown in Annecy, and it got a standing ovation too.
And we ended up loving that movie.
Yeah, so I'm hoping the same thing happens with this Transformers 1. I think Mutant Mayhem was divided as well between hardcore Turtle fans, like the ones that like the adult violent Turtles, or just like the ones we've seen on TV, on the TV animated series.
Yeah, it was like none of those really. It was like some kind of a weird mixture.
Yeah, so there was some divide there too. I think with this Transformers 1 movie, it's jarring to see something about them that we're not used to.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah,
yeah.
100%.
So I think if there's even
They're
a
more
little
emotive,
bit of Transformers love,
and...
you got to give this movie at least a chance. Walk out of the movie if you hate it.
You know what, honestly?
But I mean, don't sour anyone else who's looking forward to it.
No.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's not my Transformers. I would love to see ragged, cracked chest Megatron battling Optimus.
Function
in this sort of animation. That would look so cool, just because we've never had it that way.
Yeah.
But if this is what they're giving us, and Paramount put this at the forefront of their CinemaCon presentation.
Yes, they did. Yeah, they really made it their MVP.
I'm gonna ride this train with them. So we'll see what happens when it comes out. This is good news. It's not bad news at all. I mean,
no, in the world of positive, this is definitely positive stuff.
I really didn't think about it the way you actually kind of sold me into checking it out now, even though everything you said should have been like a no duh, right? But I really didn't think about it being as engaging as like Mutant Mayhem or Spider-Verse. So if the artwork is, I mean, you guys seen some of it. So if the artwork and the action isn't engaging like that, then actually I am kind of excited to see it. So I changed my stance on it.
Yeah. So I hope it's good.
Yeah,
I hope it's good. I like what I've seen so far. Clearly, the animators of the world clearly liked it. So let's see. Maybe we can have a little bit more faith in it. Guys, question is for you. What do you think? Be honest here. Are you one of these people that are like, no, this isn't the Transformers I grew up with. I have no interest in this movie. That's fair. That's fair. Are you kind of curious about it? Does hearing something like this maybe raise your expectations a little bit? Maybe even it's still just cautious optimism. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we still got to talk about Arcane. Season 2 has dropped its trailer. Also, The Boys, it has been announced right before Season 4 starts that Season 5 is going to be the final season of The Boys. And the first reviews for Inside Out 2 are coming out, and they are, well, pretty spectacular. But before we get to those things, we're going to take a second and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Miracle Made. Guys, we want to take a second and thank a sponsor of today's video, Miracle Made. Did you know that your temperature at night can have one of the greatest impacts on your sleep quality? If you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Inspired by NASA, Miracle Made uses silver-infused fabrics and makes temperature-regulating bedding so that you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. When they arrived at our house, my wife Ann loved the feel of them so much, she couldn't even wait for me to get home to put them on our bed. Miracle Made has self-cleaning. These sheets are infused with silver that prevents up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. Miracle Sheets also have incredible comfort and quality. Miracle Sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands and feel as nice, if not nicer, than sheets used by some 5-star hotels. So go to TryMiracle, that's TryMiracle.com/Campea to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code Campea at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you will get a full refund. So upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to TryMiracle.com/Campea and use the code Campea to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's TryMiracle.com/Campea to treat yourself. And thank you to our friends at Miracle Made for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Arcane was a series that kind of came out of nowhere to become the latest movie or show for me that I thought looked like crap, and I ended up absolutely falling in love with it. I love it when that happens as a fan. And more so than that, I have no problem. I'll have this debate with anybody, anytime, 24 hours a day. Arcane, I believe, is the greatest animated show of all time. 1 season, and I believe it is the greatest animated show of all time. And I love me some animated shows. I think we've never had finer, better writing, better characters, better narrative, better development, multi-dimensionalism, storytelling. It's just absolutely phenomenal, and it ended up being completely gorgeous at the same time. However, we've had to wait a long time for season 2, and today, they dropped the trailer for season 2 with the unfortunate news that it's also going to be the final season. Thank you, Netflix. But it's coming, and it looks good. And listen, the League of Legends people are saying that there's going to be more League of Legends stories to tell. But this will be the end of Arcane. Anyway, Variety wrote this. There's good news and bad news for Arcane fans. The popular Netflix series is ending with its November's upcoming season 2. But there are, quote unquote, many more stories to tell that I'm sure are bloodier and sexier. In the animated world of Riot Games, League of Legends, and animated studios, Arcane is just the beginning of our larger storytelling journey in partnership with the wonderful animation studio that is Fortiche, I didn't know the name of it before, said co-creator Christian Lenk in a statement. From the very beginning, since we started working on this project, we had a very specific ending in mind, which means the story of Arcane wraps up with the 2nd season, but Arcane is just the first of many stories that we want to tell. So, here's the thing. I love this image, by the way. God, I love this image. Powerful trailer. Powerful trailer. For those of you who haven't watched it, and I know a lot of you haven't, first of all, go back and watch. There are a couple things on Netflix animation you should really check out. Blue Eye Samurai is right up there, but first and foremost is Arcane. You need to watch it. And the story of Vi and Jinx grew up as sisters, forcibly separated, taking on very different paths, becoming enemies. And I love the fact that in this trailer, you hear Vi coming to accept her sister's gone. Only Jinx remains. And they give that little shot in it too, when she calls her Jinx and Jinx goes, "You finally got the name right." Because that, wasn't her name before when she was her sister. I love this show with a deep passion. It's the only animated show I've really seen that really does have, and I know everybody goes back to this and they misuse it, but I mean it truly, really has Game of Thrones level character arcs and stories and journeys and intricate complexities to it that I just found refreshing, all while having this bombastic, gorgeous package that it's all wrapped up in. I mean, seriously, bravo to everybody who made this. And season 2, while it breaks my heart that it is going to be the final one, the fact that it just looks so good. I am so excited. I'm so glad it's finally here. And again, it's the Netflix thing. Netflix doesn't really normally go beyond 2 or 3 seasons, even with many of their best shows. I mean, 1 out of every 100 will be a Stranger Things that'll get multiple seasons, but for the most part, it is what it is. I just know that I'm super excited to see this. Guys, question is for you. Did you have a chance to see the trailer for Arcane 2? What did you think about it? Maybe you're somebody who hasn't seen the first one yet. Did this trailer kind of maybe whet your appetite a little bit to go back and watch season 1? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's talk about this, shall we? The Boys Season 4 launching this week. I cannot wait to go back to that world. The world ruled by Vought. The world cruelly kind of in the hand of I almost said the Highlander. Homelander. Maybe that's going to be the twist. Highlander comes out of nowhere. Christopher Lambert as Duncan MacLeod is going to come out of nowhere. Connor MacLeod, I should say. Duncan's his cousin. Cut off his head. Anyway. Well, on the Fort Eve of The Boys Season 4 coming out, which I cannot wait for. This is absolutely one of my favorite shows on TV. We just found out the encouraging yet heartbreaking news that next season, season 5, will be the finale. This comes to us from Variety, who write the following. Ahead of the premiere of The Boys Season 4, showrunner Eric Kripke has announced the R-rated Amazon Prime Video superhero series will conclude with its 5th season. He said, The Boys Season 4 premiere week is a good time to announce Season 5, the next season, will be the final season. Kripke said in a post on X, formerly known as Twitter, Tuesday, which was accompanied with a screenshot of a redacted copy of the script for the Season 4 finale. Always my plan. I just had to be cagey till I got the final okay from Vought. Thrilled to bring the story to a gory, epic, moist climax.
Jeez.
It's too bad Erin's not here. She would have loved that. Moist climax. Watch season 4 in 2 days because the end has begun. I remember, as I'm sure many of you guys do, back when The Boys started, The Boys Season 1, and they did not waste a lot of time to let us know what kind of show we were in for. As our main character, I always forget, is it Dewey? Anyway, he's walking down the sidewalk with his girlfriend.
Right.
And all of a sudden, his girlfriend just explodes. Huey, what I say? Dewey. Next I would have gone for
Dewey,
Louie.
and Louie.
Yeah, Louie would have been my third guess. So Huey's walking down the sidewalk. By the way, the original comic book character of Huey was drawn from Shaun of the Dead's Simon Pegg.
Oh, okay.
Who then later, who is now a little bit too old to play Huey,
Sure.
but he would appear as Huey's dad in the series, which I thought was really cool.
That's a nice little...
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, go look up the actual comics and you'll see that Huey was kind of modeled after Simon Pegg. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But the moment that starts, and he's walking out with his girlfriend, and his girlfriend literally explodes. Blood and gore and guts and everywhere, and the horror of it, and the indifference of the superhero who just did it.
Yeah, he's like, sorry, I'm just late.
Sorry, I gotta go. And just boom, and leaves. That was our introduction to the world of The Boys. And it just got more depraved, more gory, more explicit, dare I say, more filthy as the series progressed. And they never lost that momentum. And they never lost the novelty either. Because here's the thing. Well, any idiot with an iPhone camera and a couple of friends and some access to Blender or some 3D technology, you can make something that looks gross and you can say the F-bomb a lot and you can put in some nudity and sex. That's easy. There's nothing to that. That's fine. But they managed to take this raunchy shell and wrap it around a truly marvelous, intriguing story with character that raises huge, big questions of morality. And like most good art, they definitely take some political jabs and stuff like that at almost everybody. But the show, like any good art, is an observation of the world we do live in, even though it's being portrayed in this fantastical way in a world with superheroes who fly around and shoot lasers out of their eyes. And like one of my favorite episodes of television in the last 10 years has got to be that one episode, again from season 1, when Highlander and Queen Maeve are on that plane and they're like, we can't save the plane. And we can't save anybody on it because then they'll just talk about our failures and what happened here. And we can't let that happen either. So we're just going to have to let everybody die. And like, I remember watching that and feeling shook. And as the series progresses and progressed through seasons 2 and 3, they never lost that edge. They never lost that ability to make us ask ourselves questions, to pose incredible moral dilemmas, ethical dilemmas, philosophical dilemmas about what do you do in this world where gods walk among us, chief of which being Homelander. And what do you do about him? And then you get the boys with these incredible characters and them going into season 4 now, as the stakes get raised and more and more, this is following along its logical trajectory, right? In its storytelling. Now Homelander's just at the point where he's like, maybe I should just rule the world.
Yeah.
And what do you do? Now, for those of you who are familiar with the source material, with the graphic novels, you have a little bit of an idea, although like most really good shows based on other material, they have definitely taken some liberties and changed some things up. But man, I'll tell you what. And you know what? Normally I'm like, keep a show going. I just love hanging out with these characters. But for The Boys, which primarily is following the trajectory of Homelander and Billy Butcher, their story has to have a conclusion. Mm-hmm. And they have to be drawing closer and closer to it because you can't go much further than where they're getting to now. And so although I would normally cry and beg and moan and bitch and begging for more seasons regardless, I think they are headed to their logical conclusion. Now, listen, the world of The Boys will continue. We already got a spinoff, Gen V, that's been out there, which is fabulous. We got another spinoff calling The Boys Mexico coming out. So they're going to keep this world, but this story of Billy Butcher and Homelander has got to come to its head, and it feels like they're going to do that with season 5. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Like, are you a little bit saddened like I am that season 5 is going to be the finale, yet undeniably excited that we're about to start season 4? Whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys, with that down, let's talk about this, shall we? Pixar's new film, Inside Out 2, opens in, what day is today? Tuesday?
Tuesday. So it opens
2 days.
2 days, yeah.
2 days. We got our tickets. Gonna go see it. This is another film that they showed us the first 30 minutes of it at CinemaCon, like they did for Lightyear. And like Lightyear, the first 30 minutes were remarkable. Like I couldn't believe that they had done it again. They managed to recapture that feeling, that emotion, the joy of it all. No pun intended. They just managed somehow to recapture it all, and it felt amazing. But that's just the first 30 minutes. Would the rest of the film go the way of Lightyear, which is completely downhill? Or would it maintain and become the next great Pixar film? Well, the premiere of Inside Out 2 has happened, and the first reviews are coming out from the big outlets. and they're saying it hasn't skipped a beat. Variety is saying Inside Out 2 heralds Pixar's back to top form. Everything from animation to story and the introduction of anxiety, envy, and embarrassment make this one of the best sequels in ages. Filled with great laughs, plenty of Easter eggs, and lots of emotion, this is animated perfection. The good folks over at Coming Soon wrote, Inside Out 2 is a fresh sequel to the first movie that delves into the chaos of puberty, making new friends and trying to stand out, and the anxiety that comes with it. Anxiety, envy, embarrassment, and ennui, I don't know how to say that, are wonderful new additions to the hilarious adventure. The folks at Digital Spy said, no need to be anxious about Inside Out 2. The Pixar sequel approaches growing up in the same funny, inventive, and affecting way as its first movie. It doesn't quite hit as hard emotionally, no take her to the moon moment, but it delivers a relatable message in a winning way. Comicbook.com writes, Inside Out 2 was a pretty fitting sequel for Pixar. Didn't have the emotional gut punch of the first, but was more complex, a more complex look at adolescence with the same humor and heart. Of course it's going to be another hit. The kids are going to love it. Brandon Davis wrote, Inside Out 2 is quite fantastic. It didn't hit the same emotional depth of the first, but much like Riley, it has matured and gotten bigger. The new emotions are fantastic, especially anxiety. Great sentiments for kids and parents to feel, all with an engaging pace. And the Movie Podcast wrote, Inside Out 2 is a masterpiece, a joyful wonder from beginning to end that truly personifies anxiety. Maya Hawke and Amy Poehler are as lovely as ever, with newcomers adding even more brilliance. This touching Pixar classic will have you experiencing all the sweet emotions. So these are the first reviews we're getting coming out of it. And I got to tell you what, I'm happy to hear it because all of this sounds right in line with what we saw, Ray, at CinemaCon. Like just that first 30 minutes, it delved into all that. And I think it even impacted you, and you had never even seen the original.
Yeah.
Gonna make you see the original tomorrow, by the way. Yeah, see it before we see the sequel.
What we saw was really good. I mean, I understand what they're trying to do with this animation. I mean, I love the wittiness of it. Like, it's very creative to actually give all our emotions like a singular character,
personification, yeah,
right. And I love the way they show that even in their physical form. Like, look at the new one, Anxiety. That's how voiced by
Maya Hawke, by the way, and Anxiety is great.
And then I love the what's the embarrassed one, the big
embarrassment.
Yeah, I love that character. I mean, I gotta see more. Obviously, we only saw the first 15-20 minutes of it. I got to see how it plays out, but it seems like something like in Turning Red, like a growing up movie.
Yeah, I mean? I'll say this: you know how much I love Turning Red, and I thought Turning Red should have won Best Animated Feature. I think the first Inside Out is better than Turning Red, and you know how much I love Turning Red, and I cannot wait to see this. It was really interesting too. Peter Docter, the head of Pixar, came out and promised people this Inside Out 2 more emotion and sexier and bloodier.
That's cool.
Oddly enough,
boy,
yeah.
You can't just.
Oddly enough, I was like, really, how's that going to fit into
this?
But we'll see. Anyway, guys, we're going to go see it Thursday. Cannot wait. Question is for you. What do you think about this? The first reviews for Inside Out 2 are coming out, and they are, beyond solid. They sound like the rest of the movie falls in line with the first 30 minutes that I saw that were incredible. Hopefully, we're not about to get another Lightyear. But whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. As Luis Alves in the live chat is suggesting, now we just got to wait for Inside Out 2, the Snyder cut.
Oh boy.
Any moment now we're going to get the announcement of that. All right, guys, listen. We got a few other things we got to do, but before we do, there are a few other stories going on in the world of movie news that we don't have time to give their own dedicated segments to, but we want to make sure you're caught up to speed in a little segment we here call In Other News. And we're going to get things started with this. According to Joe Blow, former Solo: A Star Wars Story and Falcon and the Winter Soldier star Aaron Kellyman has joined the cast of the upcoming 28 Years Later. Exactly who Erin Kellyman will play is being kept under wraps, but she joins a cast which includes Jodie Comer, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Ray Fiennes, and Jack O'Connell. Cillian Murphy, who starred in the original movie, is also expected to return. The first installment of the 28 Years Later trilogy, because it's going to be a trilogy, will be directed by Danny Boyle and scripted by Alex Garland, with production expected to kick off later this year. Next up, as most of you know, the third installment of the Knives Out franchise, called Wake Up Dead Man, is on the way and is now officially filming. Director Ryan Johnson took to social media to not only announce the beginning of filming, but also shared our very first look at Daniel Craig's main character, Benoit Blanc, sporting a new, longer hairstyle than we're used to seeing him in. Personally, I actually really like it. Currently, the cast includes Civil War standout Kaylee Spaney, Josh Brolin, Andrew Scott, Kerry Washington, Mila Kunis, Jeremy Renner, and more. The movie is set to come out next year in 2025. Next up, according to Variety, Yahya Abdul-Mateen's best known for his role in Watchmen and Aquaman, you know, doing clown work, as he called it. And of course, he was great in The Trial of the Chicago 7, is going to be playing the lead in the upcoming Netflix series Man on Fire. Now, Man on Fire is based on A.J. Quinnell's first two novels about a former French Foreign Legion soldier named John Creasy, titled Man on Fire, that came out in 1981, and The Perfect Kill in 1992. This is not the first adaptation for the novels. You might remember that Creasy was played by Denzel Washington back in the 2004 movie version, Man on Fire. Next up, according to Deadline, Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman are in negotiations to return for Practical Magic 2, for some reason, a sequel to Warner Brothers' 1998 romantic fantasy. The studio announced via its social media channels on Monday. Akiva Goldsman, who wrote the original, will return to write the screenplay. Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman are expected to produce alongside the original Denise D. Novis. Details to the sequel and plot are under wraps for now. Stockard Channing, Diane West, and Aidan Quinn also starred in the first Practical Magic in 1998, which grossed around $68 million. And finally, according to The Hollywood Reporter, Peacemaker Season 2 has added a couple of new recognizable cast members in the form of Picard Season 2's Sol Rodriguez and The Office's own David Denim, who of course played Roy, who was Pam's boyfriend/fiance. Rodriguez will play Sasha Bordeaux, who debuted in the comics in 2000's Detective Comics number 751 and is known as Batman's ally. Denman joins Peacekeeper in an undisclosed role. He is known for playing Roy on NBC's The Office and previously worked in the Gunn-produced feature Brightburn. He also played the main character's dad in one of the best comedies I've seen in years, Joyride, which was absolutely phenomenal. Many of you guys still have not seen it, and you absolutely should. And that wraps up In Other News. Okay, guys, it's now time for us to move on to the most important part of our show, which is taking your live comments and questions. But before we do, we're going to take another quick moment and thank another sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. I'm wearing them right now, our friends at The Perfect Jean. Hey guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, The Perfect Jean. Guys, are you tired of the rough and rigid jeans crushing your boys? Well, today's sponsor, The Perfect Jean, finally solved all of your denim difficulties. They make great looking, perfect fitting jeans that are as comfortable as sweatpants. The secret? A special denim fabric that is super soft and has the perfect amount of stretch so you can squat, do yoga, or just sit around all day without ever having to take them off. I'm going to admit I was a little bit skeptical because to me, jeans have always been jeans. They're practical, but not always the most comfortable. But I'm telling you guys, it's not an exaggeration. Once I put on these jeans, The Perfect Jean redefined what jeans can be to me. They're the perfect fit, they stretch, they breathe, and again, they're just insanely comfortable. So guys, it's finally time to stop crushing your balls in uncomfortable jeans by going to theperfectjean.nyc/Campea15. Our listeners get 15% off your first order plus free shipping, free returns and free exchanges when you use code Campea15 at checkout. Again, that's 15% off for new customers at theperfectjean.nyc/Campea15 and use the code Campea15. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support the John Campea Show and tell them we sent you. And thank you to our friends at The Perfect Jean for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys. With that down, let's get on to the important stuff. Taking your comments and questions. Jonathan, what we got up first?
First up, aptly named Just Curious says, Hey, John. Yeah, you're 100% right on the intro to Stormlight Archive. It is a very confusing intro and probably should have prepped you for that. Characters mentioned aren't the main ones, but it's just a scene that's important down the line. Part 2 says, if you ever do decide to read the ebook, which is much easier to follow than the audio, in my opinion, let us know. Would be cool to share fantasy book talk with you.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely going to give it another chance. Again, I downloaded the audiobook. It was just like a very rough intro that did not feel like a smooth welcoming into the world of the Stormlight Archive, and I kind of just ditched on it. But my plan is to download the book onto my Kindle, or at least my Kindle app, and read it from there. So I'll get caught up on it here at some point. All right, what's next?
Okay, the Dark Nick says, if we get a Hulk versus Wolverine fight in Deadpool 3, what are the chances it's Eric Bana? Also for Lady Deadpool, it's clearly Blake or Taylor Swift, but as a dark horse other contender, how about Celine Dion? Love you guys. Bring on the filthy.
I mean, that would be appropriate considering, you know, the music video to the second film. By the way, it is a crime that Celine Dion's song Ashes did not get nominated. It should have won Best Song at the Oscars. It didn't even get nominated. It's a perfect song for the movie. It's beautiful. And by the way, great music video too, if you haven't seen it. I still believe it's going to be Blake Lively. At this point now, I've kind of been convinced, but who knows? We'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
and I don't think we're going to get a Hulk Wolverine fight in Deadpool 3.
And
I
Celine
hope we do.
Dion's health is not in a place where
Yeah.
she could even do it. So
I mean, she can
she
walk.
can walk into scene.
Yeah,
But if
that's-
there's anything more than that, like she's not.
Yeah, I think she'd be okay to do that. All right, what's next?
The Goots is here. I am Goots says, what's your favorite animated film from Pixar? Mine is Up.
Impossible to say.
Oh, The Impossibles.
Like, because you got The Incredibles, you got Ratatouille,
Yeah.
you got Up, you got Wall-E,
Yeah, that's my favorite. Right there.
you got, I mean, it just goes on and on. I mean, there's just way too many. You got Toy Story, you got Toy Story 2. It's just, I can't pick one. I'll never be able to pick one, to be honest with you. They're just way too good. All right, what's next?
We got your name says the latest guilty pleasure is Dirty Weekend on Amazon Prime Video. Alice Eve portrays a sub with a lesbian lover. What's a sub?
I've never heard of this,
Yeah, neither.
but none of that doesn't appeal to me. Every word of that statement is selling me on checking out this show. What's it called? Dirty Weekend? All right, I'll go look for it. I'm on
Bloodier
board.
and sexier.
I love her too. I think she's great. I've loved her ever since that Star Trek appearance she was in. Anyway, all right, what's next?
Joe Adonis says, hi, John, Jonathan, and Ray. Ray, in 2018, one of the major TV networks in the Philippines, GMA7, made a series named Victor Magtatananggo. I know I butchered that. It is inspired by Norse mythology. He has a hammer, so yeah, Victor, LOL.
Oh, Tor.
So there you go.
Yeah,
there is
there
the
you go.
Tor.
You have not actually, despite the fact that you were born in the Philippines,
Yeah.
you have not actually spent much time in the Philippines.
Nope.
You haven't had the
Yeah.
opportunity to very
He
much. have you?
visited, but
Yeah.
How much of Filipino television can your mom get at home? Besides Wawawi. Is that the name of the show, by the way?
It's expensive. Anything that's the Philippines, like in order to get it on that cable or even on Roku, it's expensive. It's really expensive, actually, to the point where mom doesn't even want it.
All right, what's next?
okay. Anonymous with a two-parter. You stated that Kathleen Kennedy needs to go, but if we're looking at her resume, she's produced $4 billion plus dollar grossing movies, one underperformed and one bombed. Lucasfilm's TV series have been overperforming MCU and other Disney content in both viewership and sometimes critic reviews. I didn't like Ahsoka, but it had high viewership and good reviews from critics.
Yeah, no. Let me just stop you right there. The Ahsoka series nosedived in ratings.
Yeah.
They like we talked about, we covered this, like week after week, they lost more and more viewers as people gave up and abandoned on the show.
Initial reviews were okay, but
Yeah,
you
I mean
can't
the initial,
cherry
because it
pick.
was guess what? The initial reviews for She-Hulk were okay too, because they only showed the first couple of episodes.
That's how those work.
I mean that's how it works. And listen, I covered all of this. I did an open mic this past weekend where I covered all this. We covered the box office returns of the movies. We covered the couple of wins they had on that, and we covered all of that. But I laid out in very specific detail the three main charges against Kathleen Kennedy that highlight her. And I say this as a Kathleen Kennedy fan. I am not a Kathleen Kennedy hater. I believe Kathleen Kennedy is a first ballot Hollywood Hall of Famer, 100%. I believe she's one of the greatest producers of all time, but a producer is not necessarily the head of a studio. And I highlight in that video over the weekend the 3 main abject failures that she has had as the head of Lucasfilm that just point to the fact that she is not in the right role for her. She's one of the greatest producers of all time, but just because you're one of the greatest football players does not mean you're going to be a good coach. And it just is what it is. So yeah, she should absolutely be gone. And listen, Star Wars, look, the decline of Star Wars started with the prequels. When, people came out, started saying George Lucas ruined their childhood, literally taking off their Jedi robes coming out of theaters and burning them on public sidewalks, all that kind of stuff. It started there. But Kathleen Kennedy has done nothing to reunite the fandom and has done nothing but put out that has made Star Wars a mediocre brand. That doesn't mean there haven't been some absolute wins. There absolutely have. There have been some big wins and also some big failures. But as I laid out in the open mic this weekend, and I encourage you, if you're interested in this, go check it out. I lay everything out point by point by point. And I lay it out as a fan of Kathleen Kennedy's, okay? Not some mindless hater. I'm a fan of hers. But not only has she failed in the past, I laid out, she's failed currently, and she's failed for where she's charting them to go now. I lay all of it out, and I stand by that. I do. And again, I say this lovingly. I say it gently because I am a fan of hers, and I always will be. But she's not in the right job, and she needs to go. All right. Anyway, what's next?
We got Anonymous, who says, as a person of color, fan of everything, it sucks to go online to see such hate towards people who look like me in Star Wars, Rings of Power, MCU. One look at YouTube searches for Rings of Power, I see awful thumbnail, and it actually hurts. Yeah, and like it should hurt. I mean, that's
yeah,
awful.
no, it's ignorant and it's hatred. And here's the thing. The blogs and podcasts and YouTube channels and outlets that push this sort of blatant ignorance, they also try to give themselves an out by playing a straw man game. Because what they do is that all this blatant hatred comes out about, like, I'm not going to name the channel or the individual or anything like that. I literally, for a little bit of research the other day, watched a video by a prominent person that straight up explicitly said, women can't be in this. Like, explicitly said it. Straight up. We don't want to see women in these roles. Straight up said it.
Good. Stop watching.
Right? Straight up said it. And so, but what this community of
They're doughboys.
knuckle dragging hate mongers
They're just doughboy little wimps.
Yeah. What they then do is, when they get called out for that bullshit, they pull this straw man thing of saying, so what? Wait. So, and they all do this. So you're saying if we have any criticism about the new Star Wars, that just means we're sexist and racist? Nobody said that. Nobody said that. I have plenty of legitimate criticism for Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, Book of Boba Fett, you name it. I got tons of constructive criticism. I got tons of it. I have disliked 4 of the last 6 seasons, 4 of the last 5 seasons of Star Wars television we have. There's plenty of room for not liking what they're presenting you. But you gaggle of alligators, you literally come out and say this shit and then pretend like you don't, and then try to deflect and saying, oh, they're just saying anybody who doesn't like them is racist. No, they are specifically calling out the racist and sexist shit you say. Don't act like the victim when you get called out on it. And I've spent a lot of time on my show criticizing a lot of the Star Wars stuff we get. I also spent time on my show praising the Star Wars stuff that I've really enjoyed, Andor, for example, and stuff like that. But that's the thing that they do. They say all this stupid shit. They create safe havens for hatred. They're like, hey, everybody out there who just really don't like women or black people, we've got a community for you. Come over here. You're going to feel right at home in our community.
And they go, we're not racist. We're just talking about
and then they'll
facts.
say all this shit.
Yeah.
And then act like a victim.
It's nonsense.
When they get called out for it.
It's nonsense.
It's cowardice too.
Yep.
It's absolute cowardice. If it's something you think, have the balls to stand up and admit it. Otherwise, it's just a pure cowardice game. And it's not about, they just don't want people criticizing Star Wars. Guess what? I criticize Star Wars all the time. I just made a full video this weekend, something I've been saying for 6 years, about Kathleen Kennedy needs to go. There is plenty of room for criticism. Absolutely there is. But nobody's calling you out on this bullshit for legitimate criticism. They're calling you out on your bullshit for your bullshit, and you're spineless, gutless cowards for not standing with it. If you're gonna say it, stand by it. Have the balls to do it, at least. Anyway, there's that. All right, what's next?
Twilight Boy.
Twilight Boy.
The dust is beginning to settle on that bad breakup I mentioned I was going through. Re-entering the dating scene is going to be hard since I dated my ex so long and I'm much older now. I thought I'd ask advice from Chef Pleasures himself, Ray Ora.
You know what?
You don't want my opinion? Okay, fine.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, I've been through the same thing. I had
Everybody has.
you know, and then like I was stuck on this girl for a long time. Just don't. It's over. Just you know what? If you want to go find someone, then like, you know, make sure that they're not liking a different person than who you are, who you really are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially at an older age, you got to be. People have to be more willing to accept who you are, and you shouldn't have to play this front like you're someone else in order to get somebody, because that won't work out. That's all I know.
People
You know
have
what I
this
mean?
strange misconception that when you leave a relationship, you must get into another relationship.
Yeah, it's called the rebound.
You really don't. But even if they rebound or they want something long term, get to know yourself better. Like, grow as a person. You know, become the person you're trying to be every day, and then I guarantee you relationships will come. But don't just desperately jump in or look for something like that needs to complete you. Complete yourself, then offer yourself up as like a complete person, a real person like Ray's talking about,
Yeah,
and then they'll like you for who you are.
Because eventually the real you will come out, and then if you haven't been that way, that's gonna break the relationship. I feel.
Well, yeah, and like, listen, as somebody who has been through the ringer and has had a little bit more experience in life, like, it's easier. Someone who's had more experience in life, it's easy for us to go, because we've been through it. We can look back and see, like, you hear that old trope. There's always more fish in the sea and stuff like that. It sounds hollow when you're in the crap, but as you get older and you've actually gone through it and you realize, oh yeah, that was actually really, it felt huge at the time. There's no denying at the moment it feels huge. But later in life, you look back and you go, that wasn't actually that big of a deal. There was, it's just getting more life experience than you did. Anyway, we need to move on.
Okay.
All right, what's next?
Julia says, how much do you think the bike riders will make opening weekend? I don't math at all and recently just started to understand box office terms. Thank you guys. But I think it will make a high 60 to low 100 million against 40 million budget. Not opening weekend, but it does have my advance ticket.
When does it come out? When does it open?
Next week.
Is it next week?
Yeah.
I think 20.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see the movie. I think it looks really good. I'm excited to see it, but I don't think it has mass appeal.
And not much like publicity. So,
Well, also, it's gone through this whole drama that it was with another studio. It had a release date in 2023. They were building up and advertising that release date. Then all of a sudden the studio dropped it. Then it had to find a new studio. Then it got a new release date. Then they're trying to ramp up like, literally, the people are seeing posters in the movie theater for the bike riders. Like, wait a minute, didn't that come out last year? You know, like, you combine all of that, it might have great legs. It might end up being profitable and make money. And I think it's going to be quite good. But I'm thinking 20 million opening weekend.
I will say I've seen a fair amount of ads for it on DirecTV the past 2 days or the past week. Like, I'm watching Comedy Central. I see the trailer. It's almost on every other commercial break.
Yeah.
So it is getting the marketing. But I don't know, a little too late, or maybe people just don't care about the movie. I don't know.
we'll see.
All right, what's next?
All right. Cam says, "Hey John, when you said the basic premise of Lords of the Sith book, I was immediately hooked. I was able to pick up a copy yesterday. Should be a fun read this weekend. Thanks." I think that's a really cool book.
It's so engaging.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like when I first heard the concept of it, like Vader and the Emperor crash land on this planet and they have a fight for survival. The two of them, they got to work together to survive with like just surviving the elements, and there are people after them and all that kind of stuff. Okay, it's going to be action hack and slasher. It's really a deep book too. It's really quite profound. I enjoyed it immensely. It might be my favorite Star Wars novel. Might be my favorite Star Wars novel. Anyway, all right. I hope you enjoy it, man. All right, what's next?
Amin says, in Apple's event yesterday, they talked about how Apple TV Plus has had the highest rated original programming in the last 3 years compared to other streamers. At first I paused, but I guess it makes sense. Almost everything they put out is top quality.
What they have done, and I say this, if you guys remember, back when they did the big intro event to Apple TV Plus, and they were introducing it and talking all these shows they do, I said, that was the worst presentation I'd ever seen. That was boring. Nothing they just presented looks remotely interesting, except for Jason Momoa's C, which ends up being the only Apple TV show I didn't actually like. But they have taken a quality over quantity approach, and they have just produced amazing content. Amazing. You know, Jonathan, you said it the other day, and I agree with you. You were mentioning that, look, if somebody came to me and said, like, I'm only going to subscribe to one thing, what should I subscribe to? If you're looking for a lot of quantity, like a ton of quantity, Netflix is your go. Absolutely. Because they've got some good stuff and some terrible stuff, but they have a ton of stuff. But if you're looking for like really top-notch stuff, it's hard not to, and bang for your buck, it's hard to not recommend Apple TV Plus.
And in every genre that you could think of.
Yes.
Pick one, there's at least one good show under that genre on Apple TV.
100%. All right, what's next?
Sorry, this thing like did this weird thing where it like repeated the questions. Matan says the boys will end with season 5. Great, they will not drag it out like Lost, unless season 4 and 5 will super ultra mega hyper duper suck, which could happen after the sucky season 3 finale. They're finally going to get Homelander.
You didn't like the season 3 finale?
Apparently not.
It's all subjective, man. I mean, if it didn't work for you, it didn't work for you. Nothing wrong with that. I just have to tell you, I personally vehemently disagree. Like, I loved the finale. I thought it was terrific. But again, I like, that's the beautiful thing about the art, man. It hits us all in different ways. And if that finale hit you in such a way that it didn't work, your opinion is no more and no less valid than mine. I respect that. I just respectfully, totally disagree. I really loved it. All right, what's next?
We got Justin, who says, with films like the original SpongeBob movie, which is one of my favorites, since it has several extensive scenes set in the real world with them digitally inserted, does that alter its chance of being nominated for Best Animated Feature? No, I don't think so.
I'm sorry, what was the gist of the question?
Was there a new SpongeBob movie this year?
Well, no, but they're just, actually, like, it's more of a statement than, let's see, with films like okay, so I guess basically if films like SpongeBob insert animated characters into the real world for certain scenes, does that take them away from animated movies? I don't think so.
No.
Because it's animated into the real world too.
Yeah, I mean, like, great. Marcus Y just said in the live chat exactly what I was going to say. Like, Mary Poppins, like, has
Right.
sequences and stuff like that, right? You go back to, like, even the Lego movie. You have some live action
Right.
sequences. I mean, but predominantly an animated movie is still an animated movie. You might put in an element or two. It all depends on how much of the movie is not animated, right? But yeah, it's definitely an animated, which is why it still drives me crazy when I hear people refer to the new Lion King that came out a couple of years ago, the CGI Lion King, as live action. People, it's a fully animated movie.
No, those real lines talked.
I mean,
I know it.
The visual effects and the CGI, especially with the environments, were so jaw-droppingly good, it tricks you into thinking it's live action, but it is a completely CGI animated movie. 100% CGI animated. There is one live shot though. The very opening shot of the sunrise. That's it. Where you hear as the sun. That's it. That split second is the only actual, because they wanted to make sure they did that one thing, but the entire movie is CGI animation. It's not live action.
Well, what if at the next D23 they brought out lions that talk that sat in suits?
Then there will be then there will be other things to talk about, other than whether it's an animated movie or not. There are going to be some much bigger issues we're going to have to grapple with at that point. All right, what's next?
Ronetta is hyped. She says, did you guys catch Arcane Season 2 trailer? Season 1 was so good. This year is a great year for streaming. OMG, Shogun, House of the Dragon, Season 2, The Bears, The Boys, The Penguin, X-Men 97, etc., etc. Love it!
Yeah, listen, I'll tell you what. Rob often talks about...
I imagine that's how they wrote it.
Rob often talks about how, like, the last couple of years, like, we have just gotten damn spoiled.
Oh, yeah.
With some great television. I mean, right now, for me, at the top of the heap is, like, Shogun, House of the Dragon, Last of Us, but like so much greatness. Like even in that one world, The Boys and Gen V, like there's just, we got Penguin coming out. Don't forget we got a Dune series coming out too.
And even right now, I started watching Evil. And that
you did start watching it?
Yeah, that first episode is
with Mike Coulter.
Yeah,
is it good?
I've
always wanted to watch it. I've just never gotten around to seeing it. I'd like to check it out. All right, what's next?
All right. Tony Ravioli says, was curious what your guys' thoughts are on Roland Emmerich's The Patriot. It was one of my favorite movies growing up, but I rarely hear it talked about nowadays. I know Mel Gibson can be a hot topic, but am I crazy for loving the movie? Much love to you.
This is one of the spookiest things I've ever had happen on this show.
Wow. Well, you were just thinking about it?
No, not was I just thinking about it. This morning... Like when I wake up and I get my greens drink ready, it takes a few minutes for it to prep. I'll sit down. This is my routine in the morning. Pop on YouTube on my TV, scroll through, see what I got there. The end fight scene.
Oh yeah.
Of The Patriot was there, and I clicked on it and I watched the final like 5-6 minutes of The Patriot. I have not watched or thought about The Patriot in probably at least 15 years.
Maybe that's why they brought it up. Maybe it was on their algorithm too.
Maybe? I don't know. That's spooky to me that now out of nowhere, you just suddenly
Tony Ravioli comes in here with
Tony Ravioli coming in hot.
I love The Patriot.
What do you mean coming in here with
Jason Isaacs, who of course, the big bad guy from the movie is Malfoy's father.
Yeah.
In the Harry Potter movies.
Yeah.
And he's
you love to hate him in that movie.
He's so good. He's such a great actor.
That's right. You know, everyone always says Mel Gibson, but I forgot Heath Ledger. Kane just
played his son.
Heath Ledger is in the movie. Yeah,
played one of his sons. So Heath Ledger's in that. It's not Braveheart.
No,
it's not Braveheart.
I think people were hoping it was going to be
right, but on its own merits, it's a really good movie. It's a you know what? And I watched it. I thought as I'm watching that clip this morning, I'm like, I really should go back and rewatch it again. I haven't seen it in a lot of years.
I saw that movie.
It's a really good movie.
I saw that movie at the Cinerama Dome in Hollywood. It was still open. Harv's K says, hey, John, I was lucky enough to catch Woman in the Sea, and it was delightful. A welcome throwback to the kind of movies Disney doesn't do anymore, like Miracle, White Fang, Journey of Natigan. I love the Journey of Natigan, etc. Wholesome, positive, with solid storytelling. Recommended.
God, and they never played it anywhere near us.
I want to see that so bad.
They showed us the preview for it. They showed us, made a little presentation for it at CinemaCon. And I really like Daisy Ridley. And it just looked wonderful. It looked wonderful, but they never played it near us, unfortunately.
I almost feel cheated, John, because it's like they show us that. It had a small part at our CinemaCon presentation. Little did I know it was going to be like barely playing anywhere around us.
They did say at CinemaCon that it would be a limited release.
Yeah, but I didn't.
But we didn't know how limited it was going to be. I mean, it was pretty limited, but I've heard nothing but good things about it. I'm really excited to see it. All right, what's next?
Brian O'Connor says, it's bizarre the films that aren't R-rated versus the ones that are. The Batman should be R-rated. Violence, mature content, drug use. The opening scene there's a man getting his head bashed with a hammer. But no Bad Boys 4 was more explicit. It's because they don't show it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the MPA with all their flaws, they have some guidelines about, but listen, and all the studios understand the guidelines. They know what will push your film into an R territory and what will not. And what we got in Matt Reeves' The Batman, well, I wouldn't have argued
It's near. It's
if
near
it had
R.
gotten an R rating. I wouldn't have argued if it gotten an R rating. I didn't at all watch that movie and think this should have been given an R rating. I never once got that feeling.
That opening scene though, when that guy is wrapped up in the tape.
Oh,
If
the
I was a
first
kid,
murder?
if I was a kid, that would be something that lasts like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that.
But you don't actually see his head get impacted.
No,
Even
no.
when the guy's
No,
head
no.
explodes in the church, you don't see graphic heads like the skull explode. You just see a blast and Batman's blocking it. And the drug thing, they're doing eye drops. So it's not like they're putting a needle in a vein.
Yeah, it's not like they're
Yeah.
So I get it. They walk a line, and honestly, I thought the line they walked with the Batman, because clearly they didn't want an R rating. They wanted to get that PG-13, and that makes sense. But they did such a good job with it that if you had been told it was rated R, you would have believed it. So good on them for doing that.
I love the people who insist that movie's boring. I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Hey, listen, to
It is
each their
long.
own.
Hey,
It is long.
don't
To
bother
each their
watching The
own.
Godfather then. You'll think that's the dullest
But again,
thing
listen,
in the world.
listen, all movies subjective. If you watch the Batman, it didn't work for you, that's fine. But you just have to acknowledge and understand that a lot of us loved it. And anyway, all right, what's next?
Deadpool's unicorn plush. Do you think the Deadpool and Wolverine movie will act as a launching off point for something greater in the MCU, such as a big bad, or will it just be one goodbye letter to past IPs? Love the show.
While I do believe that Kevin Feige probably is going to interweave some connective tissue between this Deadpool movie and where the MCU is and going, I don't expect that to play a major part. While it's true that this phase, the last couple of phases since Endgame, the MCU has not done a really good job of interconnecting their movies. It doesn't feel like one cohesive story being told like the first several phases did. That's true. That has not been their main problem, though. The main problem is too many of their movies just haven't been good. You know? If in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Paul Rudd says in one scene, I know there's hope. I just talked to Captain Marvel, who told me about a new hero who has emerged with these 10 magical rings. And I know that if I get out of this, that I need to connect up with that guy later, because I think we can do some good in the world. Okay, let's say they did that. Does that tie the movies together a little bit better? Sure. Does it make the movie any better? No. So while it's true that has been an issue, it hasn't been the problem. It's been an issue, hasn't been the problem. The problem is they've made more mediocre films than they've ever done before. Mediocre to bad. So I think this Deadpool movie is going to be a great movie in and of itself, self-contained. I do believe Kevin Feige will make some connective threads in there, but I don't expect Deadpool and Wolverine to be a nexus moment that sets the direction for the future of the MCU. You know what I mean? I think it'll be more like Guardians of the Galaxy 3. A very self-contained movie with some overtures to the bigger MCU, but really its own self-contained movie. All right. But then again, I don't know, right? I'm just guessing. So we'll see. What's next?
We're on to members now. Jay Superboy says, "Hey guys, just want to say rest in peace to Comic Story, and thank you so much for your storytelling and always educating us on comics. You will be missed." I saw that he had passed away, but I just was never familiar with his work.
I'll be honest with you. I've never heard of him. So somebody wrote to me earlier today and said, like, "Oh, you should talk about this on the show." And I said to them offline, I said, with all respect, I said, honestly, I've never heard of this particular individual. I'm sure there's millions of great online content creators that I've not heard of, and even more that have never heard of me. So I said, I feel it would be disingenuous then of me to do
it doesn't mean
anything on it. It would be disrespectful, I think, for me to do anything.
Exactly,
on
to fake it. But it also, obviously we feel bad that he lost his life.
By the way, is there any way you can bring up the tip questions again for a second?
Tips? Yes, 1 second.
Because I'm positive I saw, scroll down a little bit.
Okay.
Maybe even, oh my goodness. I know somebody sent in a $50 one. I know somebody sent in, and we never called them out, and I don't see it in here. And they sent in a $50 one late.
I will keep. You know what? Let me hit refresh on it, and then we'll see what's up.
Yeah,
Usually refresh doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. Not with stream
But,
elements. Usually it's just all there.
Yeah.
But it didn't come up. So listen,
I'm going to keep an eye out for it.
Yeah, I want to give.
Here it is.
Oh,
it
did you
just popped in?
Just popped in. Okay.
Dutch
I knew I
Angola.
thought, and I want to make sure. Oh, and that's probably why it was they just tipped it in just to be supportive.
Yeah.
Who was it that did that?
Dutch Angola?
Dutch Angola just tipped in just to be supportive, a $50 tip. Thank you so much, man. We appreciate that. I know I saw that kind of pop up in my alert status. I'm like, oh my goodness, thank you so much for that. Were there any other questions there that we missed, or was that just
no, that was it.
Okay, it probably just didn't bring it up because it was a tip and not a question in there too. So thank you so much for that. We really appreciate that, man. It's incredibly generous of you.
Oh, look here. It's these two are grouped together. The downfall of the Flash will not be sad. Will never not be sad. It started out as this really cool, fun show to a horribly written, awful mess. How did we go from 50 reactions, 10 after shows after every episode to barely keeping anyone keeping up? That was really a fun time.
Listen, it's really not that hard to imagine, right? Like making a good movie or a good TV show is really, really hard. And even if you can start strong, keeping it going and keeping it like change, because a show's got to change, right? For a show to keep going and be healthy, it has to go through changes. Sometimes the changes are good. Sometimes the changes are bad. Like a lot of people thought Family Ties went off the cliff when they introduced the new kid. Remember they brought in near the end, they brought in a new baby because you had Alex and Mallory, and then they brought in a third kid at some point. And a lot of people felt like Family Ties kind of went off the cliff then. And listen, it's like Harvey says in The Dark Knight, you either die the hero or you live long enough to become the villain. And I think The Flash was simply a victim of that show just kept going for the sake of keeping going. And they ran, no pun intended, they ran out of steam, and they really should have ended it sooner. But listen, any show keeps going. Eventually, no matter how good the show is, eventually it's going to start to get bad.
Do you remember who the third kid was?
I do not remember who.
Corey Feldman.
It was?
Family Ties.
Are you sure about that?
Unless he had a short run, there was a third kid who had a short run, and it was Corey Feldman.
No, because the kid was a new baby, I think.
Oh, okay, because they had another kid that was living with them. And he was like this, like, hey, go get me some food or whatever. He was like a really smart mouth kid, and it was Corey Feldman.
Like maybe
and he did more than one episode.
Because Corey Feldman was like old enough in the Goonies.
Yeah, but it was fairly early.
Okay, it was still fairly. Yeah, all right.
Yeah. And Leo was on Growing Pains.
Yeah, Leo did have a role on Growing Pains. Yes, Leonardo DiCaprio did.
Okay, so Ricky Ricardo says, excited for House of the Dragon seasons 2. I am going to miss Patty Constantine. He was so good.
God, he was
great actor.
Emmy snub.
Oh yeah,
Emmy snub.
He went over that last year. Yeah, big time.
I don't know whether you should have put him in Best Actor or Best Supporting Actor. That's fine. Either one would have fit just fine. But the fact that he did not get a nomination, that scene alone, where he comes decrepit into the throne room and says, "I will sit the Iron Throne today," and declares, "Yo, she's your queen." That scene alone should have gotten him an Emmy nomination. I don't know how he didn't get a nomination for that.
I'm sorry why I'm laughing. It's because every time you mention that scene, I always think of that upload where someone put John Cena's entrance music to it.
I've never seen that.
You haven't seen that?
No. Somebody took that scene and put him coming into the room. Oh my God, I got to watch it. That sounds perfect. That sounds so perfect. All right, what's next?
We got JMH who says Matt Belloni is reporting the news.
That's his real name from Puck Newsletter.
I know, but it's just,
he's a respected journalist in our field.
I know, I get it,
sorry,
but as soon as he laughed, I'm like, oh, right, because it sounds like Belloni. Is reporting the new Russo brothers Millie Bobby Brown movie, The Electric State, is costing Netflix upward of $300 million.
No way.
I always take those with a grain of salt, but
Netflix does throw around money.
Netflix has done some really stupid things, though. Yeah, well, whatever. Look, maybe Matt's right, maybe Matt's wrong, but that's just pathetic if that's true.
Or maybe Matt's baloney. Sorry. I'm sorry.
We're
It was
all-
right there for me.
It was low hanging fruit.
Ray
You
and I
gotta
have
pick it.
9-year-olds in our hearts, so we're just little 9-year-olds.
All right, what's next?
Yulatan says, not sure if this was brought up on the show before, but have you heard Whitney Houston's song, I'm Your Baby Tonight? It's strikingly similar to the animated X-Men theme. Did the original X-Men composers get inspired by Whitney? I'm not sure. I have to listen to I'm Your Baby
Oh,
Tonight.
you know-
I'm your baby tonight.
I'm
I
gonna
remember
listen
that.
to that afterwards.
Listen, I'm
Maybe
gonna have to go
split
back
it
and
up.
re-listen to it again, but I don't recall it being anything like the X-Men theme. I'll go check it out. Maybe you're right.
In my head, I think it's close. We'll
Maybe.
see.
All right, what's next?
I'm your baby tonight. I'm your baby tonight. Yeah, I hear it. Joseph says, what did you think about the Arcane trailer? Looks good.
I thought it looked
You
great.
loved it.
Yeah, it looked great. It said, I mean, seeing Vi with a police badge, like, what? What's happening here? Yeah, I thought it was really top notch. Very, very good. I'm very excited for it. Bummed out it's going to be the last season for it, but I think it's going to be something special again. All right, what's next?
We got Todd who says, do you think the 89 Batman is one of the most important, influential movies ever made? Well, comic book movies, not out of fandom, but how it was the first movie to do cross promotions, merchandising, marketing only using symbols, etc. It was the first blockbuster.
It wasn't.
No, it wasn't the first blockbuster, Jaws, but it was the blueprint for how all major movies would be released that came after it. I don't think it did anything that Star Wars didn't do.
Yeah, I got to agree. It like Star Wars. I mean, look, did it do some unique things? It absolutely did. But I don't think it had that profound of an impact on the industry and how they did things. Again, that's just kind of my take on it. Maybe if I sat down and thought about it longer, I would change my mind.
Because
but-
by the time they got to Return of the Jedi, you were having like cross promotions at fast food restaurants and everything, 7-Eleven,
Yep.
you name it.
100%, and all that came well before that Batman movie. So I would say no. I mean, listen, I love that movie as much as anybody else, but no. Is it one of the most important films ever made? No, I don't think so. All right, what's next?
Jesse Price says, hey, John and crew, have you seen the show Shoresy? It's one of the... No.
It's the spin-off of Letterkenny.
Right.
But I've never had a chance to watch it yet. I don't even know where I can watch it here. Maybe it'll be on Hulu or something like that. I don't know, but I've heard good things about it. I've just never had a chance to watch it yet. All right, what's next?
Dominic Suma says, do you think the long gap between the theatrical Star Wars movie and the Mandalorian movie will help its opening weekend? I think there will be a huge turnout that first weekend, regardless of how the marketing is done.
No. And I'll tell you what, I talked about this a little bit in my Kathleen Kennedy breakdown. I get why you go for a Mandalorian movie, because there is an element of wisdom to it, right? In a really divided fan base, what is one thing in the past 10 years that all Star Wars fans have kind of agreed on? Mandalorian, right? Like, especially, I mean, notwithstanding season 3, but at least the first 2 seasons. Almost, not obviously everyone, but almost everyone, on every diverse corner of Star Wars fandom, around the Mandalorian, everybody was able to come together, hold hands, sing Kumbaya, and go, oh, look how cute Baby Yoda is, right? So the concept, at least, of coming back to the world of movies with the Mandalorian as a potentially unifying force, I see the wisdom in that. I do. I've talked about it before. I was even very, very pro that. But here's the 2 things that work against it. 3, really. 1, you're not striking while the iron's hot. You're striking while the iron is cooled considerably, because there are a lot of people who did not love season 3 of The Mandalorian. I'm one of them. Now, there are different people to different degrees. Some people absolutely hated it. Some people thought it was perfectly fine, just clearly not as good as the first 2 seasons. But regardless, you're striking while the iron has considerably cooled off. The fever and the passion for Mandalorian is not as hot as it used to be. That's just a fact. To which degree is up to your individual interpretation. But I mean, it's just not as popular or as hot as it used to be. Number 2, you're making a movie based on a TV show? Haven't we already seen a couple of abject lessons here about, listen, not everybody has Disney Plus. Not everybody has watched Mandalorian. And now you're going to try to bring it to the big screen? Okay. Again, none of this is taking away that Jon Favreau can't make a fabulous Mandalorian movie. Of course he can. He's Jon Favreau. I have all the belief in the world in him. Still, we had Mandalorian season 3. But then here's the really interesting thing. If your reasoning for making the next Star Wars movie a Mandalorian movie is because you want to bring everybody together again because everybody agrees the Mandalorian was great, then what the fuck are you thinking making the next movie a Rey movie? The poster child of the again, I love Daisy Ridley. I personally like the Rey character, where you took her in the third movie notwithstanding, right? But if your motivation in doing the first movie is Mandalorian is because, it's going to bring everybody together, then what are you thinking making the next movie after that a Rey movie who is the poster child of the divisiveness, the face of the divisiveness in the Star Wars fandom? What's your plan here, Kathy? What's the plan here? What's the philosophy exactly? It makes zero sense to me whatsoever. So at the end of the day, while I hope and believe Jon Favreau can deliver a fabulous Mandalorian movie, and while I do believe it'll have a bigger opening weekend than Furiosa or Fall Guy, bigger opening weekend than even Bad Boys, do I think it's going to be like $150 million opening? I don't. It's just too many people got cooled off from it. You're making it based on a TV show that not everybody has seen. I don't know. I'm going to hope for awesome things for it. I'm excited about it myself, but there's just so many question marks surrounding their strategy right now that is just very, very confusing.
Real quick before we move on, you might have seen this, and I know we're going to talk about this later, but Redstone's National Amusement ends discussions with Skydance. And then it says, the media heiress has ended discussions with Skydance Media, according to people familiar with the matter, drawing to a close months of negotiations in one of the messiest deal dramas to play in our recent years. Redstone will now this is interesting. Redstone will now likely pursue a sale of just National Amusements, her company that owns 77% of Paramount, without trying to merge Paramount into another company. So that would be basically selling that. She's out, and then someone would have controlling stake.
So she's going to separate Paramount out from National Amusements and then just sell National
Amusements?
No,
I think what'll happen. Well, I think what's going to happen is someone's going to buy National Amusements.
But if you buy National Amusements, then you own Paramount,
and they will have 77% control. So something's going on behind the scenes.
That whole situation just gets messier and messier by the day. All right, we got time for like 2 more. What's next?
All right. David says, did you see his still image of Vinnie Jones' Juggernaut in Deadpool 3 trailer? He pulled an Andrew Garfield.
I heard people talk about it, but I've not seen it myself. So for those of you who know what he's talking about, some time ago, Vinnie Jones, who I love Vinnie Jones. He's so good in The Gentleman, the new Netflix series, so good in it. But of course, he was Juggernaut in that one film. And he said, I'm never playing Juggernaut again. Never playing it again. He said, people just don't understand, like, seriously, how many hours, I think he said 5 or 6 hours every day just to get into that costume. And he said, I'm never going to do it again. Well, then some people are saying that they've claimed to spot him in one of the Deadpool trailers. So again, I have not seen it myself. I've just seen that there have been some people talking about it, but I haven't seen it myself. So again, if that's true, then it wouldn't be the first time, right? That's why the reports going around like, oh, Taylor Swift, it's official now. Taylor Swift's not going to be in Deadpool 3. Sure. That's why I don't buy it. I don't buy it. So we'll see. All right, what's next?
Okay, Don says, hello, John and all. I hope you're well. Thoughts about Paul Giamatti joining the cast of Paramount Plus's upcoming Star Trek Starfleet Academy?
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
I didn't either, but I love Paul Giamatti.
Because, I mean, we just talked about Paul Giamatti joining that new Hostel series coming out. And we also just talked about Holly Hunter joining that Starfleet Academy show, which was very exciting because I love her. Paul Giamatti, Really? I love him. He's just a fabulous actor. This is shaping up to be pretty cool, actually. We'll see how it goes, if Paramount still exists when this thing is all said and done. All right, last question of the day. What's next?
Okay. Alan says, "Happy Tuesday, Campea crew. I rewatched Inside Out. I don't think there really is an antagonist, but the movie is still really good. Can you think of any other movies without a clear antagonist and the movie turned out well?"
The one, I'm sure there have been many. The one that instantly jumps to my head is this Lupita Nyong'o film called The Queen of Katwe, which is awesome. David Oyelowo's in it as well. And it's just amazing. It's based on a true story. It's just one of these movies about good people doing good things. You know, every movie has an antagonist, but it's not always another character. Sometimes it's man versus man.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's man versus nature, or sometimes it's man versus context. And Queen of Katwe is kind of like that. Like these individuals trapped in a certain set of circumstances that was beyond their control, and their fight to kind of get out of it and beyond it. Queen of Katwe, if you've not seen it, guys, is a wonderful feel-good movie that it just makes you believe in humanity a little bit more when you watch movies like this. So if you haven't seen it, Lupita Nyong'o, fabulous in it. Go check it out. Queen of Katwe. That's another movie that does that.
I would all theorize that Joy is actually the antagonist of Inside Out, because she was not allowing her human to feel the hurt that she needed to feel to move on until she finally realized, I need to step out of the way and let her feel her feels.
Maybe.
Antagonist doesn't mean villain.
Yeah, like again, to me in the first one, the antagonist of it is just her growing up. Like it's just it's man versus nature in some ways, but it's just such a good movie either way. All right, guys. And that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here, making this little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all of you guys who sent in those questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. Don't forget to come on back and join us again tomorrow for the next installment of the John Campea Show. We'll look forward to seeing you then. And in the meantime, I want to thank Ray Ora.
I'll see you guys later.
Jonathan Voico.
See you guys Wednesday.
My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.